Hey everybody, Alan Meyer here from Alan Meyer Video. Basically here to talk to you today about a new camera I just picked up recently. Sony a6300. It's a really cool camera and I got a pretty in-depth review here for you guys. And you might wonder why I have the box, not the camera. But it's because I'm actually filming this whole thing right now with the camera to show off the supposedly insanely smartest, fastest, whatever autofocus technology that they put into this camera. And so far, I mean, with everything I've played around with it for and everything I've tried with it, it's been pretty sweet, pretty great. And the autofocus has been really fast. Right now I'm just shooting on the little kit lens that it came with, 16 to 50 millimeter with super slow lens, but whatever. A couple of things that the camera is most known for, most people are most excited about, is that it's 4K up to 30 frames per second. Pretty sweet. It also does 1080 at 120 frames per second, so it gives you that slow motion that everybody wants. And the camera shoots up to just over 25,000 ISO in video mode. It's expandable past that for photography as well. Mostly what I do with it is all going to be video, so figure I'm just going to be reviewing it for that. When you see me look down, I'm just checking a little reference monitor just to keep track of the focus. It's looking like it's keeping me in focus pretty well. You can set where the focus is going to be for it, and I chose to be right around here because, that's the point. Yeah, so what I've done is I've shot a few tests for the low light capabilities and the slow motion capabilities and skin tone tests, all the basic things. Right now I'm filming this in S-Log 3, whatever setting it does for the gamma automatically when you choose that, basically just going with the presets for that. So I'm currently shooting at like 4,000 ISO. It still comes out pretty clean. What I've noticed with all the footage is that when you go through and add any kind of grade, even if it's just a grade to take it out of the log image to the Rec 709, it looks really good just with a basic grade on it to bring those blacks down, because that's where the most of the noise shows up. Most of the noise is in the areas that the black brings down. So when you bring down your blacks, you take out a lot of noise. It disappears almost completely, but the noise itself is not bad. Even at 25,000, it's still usable for the most part, depending on your lighting conditions. And it's not super blocky, it's not going to give you artifacting like crazy, because the noise is real small and very grain-like, which is nice. And so, having that little bit of grain look to it is actually really effective. It's really nice as long as it doesn't look like actual noise, being, colorful and larger pixels and everything like that. So the best thing about it is if you're shooting in 4K but your output is going to be 2K or 1080p, especially for web content. 4K is available online, but not everything needs to be put out at 4K, obviously. But shooting at 4K, there's always advantages. But especially so when you down res it to that 1080, you're going to get a much better look to that noise, because the noise is going to be that smaller noise. And so when you show it at 1080 rather than 4K, it becomes even less noticeable and even more kind of grain-like. So let's go ahead and just get into this. Let's take a look at some of the shots that we've got, and let's see what everything's looking like. So what we're looking at here is we've got all of the different ISOs shot at. I shot this in a real-world situation. I just went right outside of my apartment, and so all the lighting you're seeing is the existing lighting in that situation, so it's all security lights and things like that that are outdoors. But I shot this at every ISO that is available in video mode, from 800 to the 25,000 plus. And so that way you can see side by side what every single ISO looks like noise-wise. And with that, I decided to show the log clips next to the graded clips one by one, so you could also see the difference between the log and colored, because in the log footage, you can definitely see a lot more noise than in the colored footage. The colored footage brings the blacks down and hides a lot of that noise, and it looks really good and can actually be really clean, so that even shooting at the higher ISOs, you have usable footage across the board pretty much. And I almost wish that they'd set it up so that you could go into the higher ISOs than 20,000 or the 25,000 plus, but it is understandable with it being a crop sensor and in a smaller body than something like the A7S2 or the A7R2, that it would have lower ISO capabilities. But I kind of expected it to be a little higher, or I kind of expected there to be higher ISOs available. But I'm still very happy with how the footage comes out, how good it looks, and how overall nice the image quality from this camera is. As you can see, even up at 16,000 and 20,000 ISO, the noise isn't that bad. It's nice and grainy rather than really so much noisy. It's not that colored noise. And as you can see in the image, you can see the parking lot just fine. You can see the leaves on the tree. They're actually popping with green, and they look really nice, and they maintain their color despite the lack of light. Alright, so now we've taken a look at the outdoor footage, and it looks really good. So the next one that I have pulled up for you is going to be the candlelight test, because as we all know with these Sonys and their crazy low light abilities, the candle test is a really good way to go. But before we get to that, I want to mention a quick little quirk that I just had happen. As I'm recording this, the camera decided to just stop catching my focus after a while. It wouldn't, the autofocus would not move, it would not readjust until I stopped recording and adjusted some stuff with the lens. I honestly don't know what exactly made it decide to start working again, but it wasn't working before. Now I'm going to be really paranoid looking down my reference monitor to make sure that it's actually focusing. But that was a good catch to know, and so, you know, obviously don't 100% rely on the autofocus. It also could have been the lens. I've had a lot better luck with the autofocus being pretty good with the 50mm. It could be that might just be having bad luck with the kit lens. What can you really expect? But let's move on to the candle test. Now we're taking a look at the candle test, and the candle test is definitely kind of a classic test for low light abilities. As we all know, when you do a candlelight test, it really does help to show off any noise that might show up in the background in the darker areas, because there is no additional light filling the room. So I decided to film this with just a little tea light candle. That way it's not a whole lot of light, but enough to show off what the noise capabilities are on this camera in low light. And as you can see, going from 800 again to the 25,000 shot all in S-Log3 with the same gamma settings and everything, the footage looks good. There is obvious noise when you're in the log shots that actually really does pretty much disappear completely in a lot of the color shots, all the way up to about approximately 8,000 ISO. When we get there, you'll see that really the color grade hides away almost all the noise. And it looks really, really good. I was most impressed, though, by the fact that the camera was able to pick up the grain of the table that the candle's sitting on, even at the high ISOs, even once the color grade was on, that it didn't lose that detail when the blacks were brought back down. And really, I would say, for web delivery at least, I would be perfectly fine with using the footage out of this camera all the way up to 25,600 ISO. It's clean enough that, especially for web delivery where people are not viewing it necessarily on the most high res of screens to begin with, you know, the noise definitely can be utilized just fine. It's not going to take away from the video, especially since there's no real artifacting, there's no real ugly color to the noise. It's just grainy, and when you bring it down to 1080 or release at web 4K, it's really not going to look bad. It's going to look nice. It's going to be, you know, a nice fit to the footage, especially if you're using vintage emulating LUTs like I tend to do. It's just going to overall be a nice look from this camera. Alright, so we've looked at now the low light test, both of them, the real world situation and the candle test, and so far the camera's looking great. It's holding up really well in the low light, as we've seen. The noise, even in the log footage, even at the highest ISO, it's really not actually that bad. It's pretty usable, especially if you're just, you know, if you have a grade and noise reduction going on there, it's going to look great and definitely be usable as long as there is light. If there's no light, then obviously, as we all know, the noise will be worse. So if you're shooting in a situation where even your background ends up black, but there's something lit in the middle, that background's going to show the noise a lot more. But if you're in just low light situations where it's pretty well lit technically, it just, there's not a lot of light, it's going to end up looking pretty good. So the next test is the next most important after the low light, the slow motion test. And I did two different tests for the slow motion. One I did of a fireplace, and the other I did of having my fiance outside throw a rock in the air. They're basic tests at 120 frames per second. They just are good to show off what it can do. Also, that it's going to show what the noise looks like at the 1080. Now these, I have up-res them to 4K because I want to put out the whole review in 4K. When you're watching this, keep that in mind, that you're not looking at its natural size. You're actually looking at scaled up, so that even kind of makes it that much more impressive that the image quality holds up as well as it does with the image being blown up. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. So this one is the fireplace. I didn't feel like having to show 2 clips. I wanted to show, though, the difference of with a grade and without a grade, even at 1080. And so I put them as a side-by-side with a crop. And what you can see is the noise is really noticeable. There is noise there, and it's very obvious. But what's amazing is when you look just to the side of it, once you throw that basic log to Rec 709 LUT onto there, it goes away pretty much completely. So the rock moves smoothly through the air. You can see her hands are moving smoothly. Her hair looks good. It's moving in the wind a little bit. And it all looks really smooth in the 120 frames per second. Overall, both tests showed to me that it looks really good with the slow motion. I've also done some other tests I'm not going to include here necessarily, but just playing around with the camera, and everything I've done so far, it looks really good. The slow motion's got a great effect. The 120 frames per second is really nice. I kind of wish they'd put in 720p, 240 frames per second, and who knows, that might come with a firmware update someday. You know, having that 1080 120 is huge, especially for people like me that do a lot more kind of artistic style stuff for projects. Like I do, you know, music videos and event videos with DJs and live music and things like that, where the slow motion effect is something that people really like to see for certain times, and having that 120 is really fantastic. And going with the low light ability and the high ISO means that you can even use that in dark places. You don't have to be in a super well lit place to have great slow motion footage. And so overall, it's a really nice effect. This last portion is the skin tones and color tests. I did 2 main tests, one outdoors under the kind of shady spot and with a reflector, and that was it. And the other was done indoors with artificial lighting. So it was with one LED and just the existing lights in my apartment. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. I've got them set up as an ungraded shot and then the graded shot so that we can see kind of what the log footage looks like and then the colored footage looks like. Okay, so as you can see with the first clip, it is very bright. It almost looks like it's overexposed in areas, especially on the skin. But what you'd be surprised to see is how much detail is really there. When we look at the colored now, you can see how much detail is not only still there, but how much color's there. This is with a pretty basic grade, but it looks really nice. There's no noise. Now we're looking at the indoor, and with the indoor, we can see, again, it's very flat, like you want to see with a good log shot. It's honestly a lot better looking log than I expected out of this camera for grand, and for not having RAW. Now we look at the colored. Again, it just looks really nice. The colors themselves look really nice. They pop well. It's a lot better than what I expected from a Sony after seeing some of the examples out there from other people. I'm really happy with it, especially the way that it handles skin and all the other colors in the shot. So overall, the camera is really great. The color is really great. The features are really great. I mean, the camera is a really nice camera overall. The only things that are my complaints are the pretty much regular complaints of any Sony camera from people that are new to them, which is that the menu system's super convoluted and just kind of a pain to deal with. And that, for me, the biggest thing that's really kind of frustrating for the camera body is that the lens mount button is right below the lens on the inside, like towards the handle, which is strange. I'm used to them being on the other side or being up higher, but so it can make it a little difficult to access if you just have the camera directly on a tripod. But if you're using a rail system or anything, it's not going to be a problem. Also, the viewfinder on it's fantastic. It's an electronic viewfinder, so what you see is what you get. So overall, that's everything I've got to talk about. You know, if you want to know any more information, feel free to comment below. I'll happily answer you right away, or you can contact me on my website at www.alanmeyer.com. Also, I have a link right there that you can click. It'll take you right to my website for the review on this. If you want more information and some pictures of the camera, and so you can see a little bit more, I have the full in-depth text review there as well in my blog, so you can go check it out there. If you like this video, make sure to throw it a like down there. I really appreciate it. You know, make sure to share it with anybody that might be interested, and also click that subscribe button down there, and you can get more information like this from me. You can see a lot of my cool videos I post. I appreciate you coming by and taking a watch. That's it for this camera review, and I hope you really enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.